There's one leadership trait no one can undermine, no matter how much pressure you're under, and most leaders never develop it. The leaders who do, they stop exhausting themselves trying to prove their worth in every room. Stay with me, this matters more than you think. Picture this, two leaders receive the same critical feedback, same words, same tone, same stakes. One spirals, questions everything, loses sleep, second guesses decisions for weeks. The other processes it, extracts what's useful, and moves forward with clarity. Same feedback, completely different experience of leadership. Here's what I know after 25 years of working with executives. The difference, it's not confidence, it's not charisma, it's not even experience. It's identity stability. And without it, you'll keep leading from a place of proving instead of a place of presence. So let me tell you what I mean by identity stability, because this is the foundation of everything else. Identity stable leaders have separated who they are from what they produce. They understand their worth isn't determined by their latest outcome, their team's performance, or someone else's opinion of them. And here's why this matters in real time. When you are your title, every criticism feels existential. When you are your last quarter's numbers, failure becomes unbearable. When you are your reputation, feedback feels like an attack. But when you recognize your value as intrinsic, something that exists independent of validation, everything changes. This is what I call recognizing value. It's the first pillar of my framework for connected leadership. And it's where every leader I work with begins. Why? Because you cannot create stability in your organization if you haven't found it in yourself first. Most leaders are building their entire leadership approach on unstable ground. Here's what this actually looks like when you've developed it. You walk into a tense meeting, and instead of managing everyone's perception, you're fully present to what's actually happening in the room. You receive harsh feedback, and instead of collapsing into self-doubt or becoming defensive, you can receive it clearly, perceive what's beneath it, and respond from alignment rather than reaction. You face a major setback. Your team misses targets. A strategy fails. Someone questions your judgment publicly, and you don't spiral because the outcome didn't define you to begin with. Identity stability doesn't mean pressure doesn't affect you. It means pressure doesn't define you. And the leaders who understand this distinction, they're the ones people actually want to follow. Not because they're flawless, but because they're grounded. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. How much of your leadership energy right now is spent trying to prove your worth, proving you belong in the room, proving you made the right call, proving you're not the imposter your inner critic says you are? What decisions would you make differently if that energy was freed up? This is what I mean when I say most leaders are building on unstable ground. You can be brilliant, strategic, experienced, and still be running on a foundation of validation seeking. At some point, that foundation cracks. If this is landing for you, or if you're recognizing that your worth has been entangled with outcomes that you can't fully control, do two things. First, subscribe, because this is where the real work happens. Not tactics, not tips, transformation. And second, leave me a comment. Where do you feel the pressure to prove yourself in meetings with your team when you're alone with your thoughts? I read all the comments, and I promise naming it begins to separate it from you. This foundation, understanding that your value is intrinsic and not earned, is where I begin with every leader who's ready to stop performing and start leading from presence. It's not a mindset shift you can manufacture overnight, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's when everything becomes possible. Leadership starts within. It always has and always will. I'll see you in our next episode.